Hey there, Steeler Nation and BTSC followers. Flip Fisher, staff writer for BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Uh, in my previous video and my previous article, I went over the 2020 salary cap for the Steelers and where we're sitting. So at the end of that, I talked about getting into the 2021 salary cap, which any major moves right now, as far as restructures or contract extensions, are going to have an impact on the 2021 salary cap. And like I had said previously, we have to make some moves to actually still get under the salary cap and get compliant. We're compliant now for 2021, but we don't have enough cap space to get compliant by the start of week 1 where we have to be. So most of those moves, some of those moves might have a big impact in 2021. You know, you have to look at it. We have 9 starting positions next year that are not under contract. You know, and I say positions because I throw in nose tackle and I throw in punter. You might say meaningless. I say you still have to account for it. And the other thing you got to look at here is we're 28 million under the cap, which, hey, that is fantastic if that was for 53 players. But we don't. We don't have 53 players signed next year. We only have 38. You know, and to look at this roster, you know, like I said, we have 9 actual starters that are not under contract for next year. Some of those starters are going to be expensive, such as Cam Hayward, possibly Dupree, just Juju Smith-Schuster, just to name a couple. Those guys could be very expensive for next year. But let's get down here to the bottom of the roster here of those 38 players that are signed for next year. We got Josiah Coatney. You know, some of you that follow these undrafted rookie free agents a lot might be excited about these guys. But the odds of these guys making the roster, let alone making an impact, let alone starting this year or next year, is really slim. Very, very slim. Odds are a couple of these guys are going to make the roster. But in what capacity? And would you really want them starting in 2020? Now, that being said, look at some of the guys at the bottom of our current roster. Fan favorite Tuzar Skipper. You know, I think people like his name a whole lot better than what he's done for us. Same with a few of these other guys. You know, Ulysses Gilbert, Isaiah Buggs, Gentry, Lane. These guys were all draft picks, but besides Skipper, but what'd they do for us last year? Not a whole lot. Are you really going to hope that these guys make enough of an impact this coming year that you can trust them next year? So we have a half a dozen guys at the bottom of the roster that are huge question marks right now. I mean, you look at it, we're down to maybe 22 players that you feel comfortable with. So that being said, that 28 million, that's not going to go very far. So let's get into this a little more. What's not included in that cap figure right now? The 2020 draft class. That's going to cost $6.1 million next year, if all 6 of them are still around and in the top 51. Next year's draft class, which right now stands at 7 players, that's not included. That's $6.5 million for next year. Then you got to account for the 52nd and 53rd guy, and that's another $1.4 million. Because you got to remember the salary cap for even the lowest level players is going up $100,000 each. Then you got to throw in the practice squad guys. These guys are going to be making, I believe, over $9,000 a week. So you got to account for the practice squad, and that's $1.9 million. That's just the minimum. But like I said on the previous show, was the Steelers don't generally do it, but they may pay practice squad players more just to retain them instead of them maybe jumping ship to another team. And like I said before, New England is famous for paying their players on their practice squad a lot of money, so they do not sign with other teams. But the Steelers don't do that, and we've lost a number of players because of that. So that being said, we're sitting on roughly $15.9 million that is not accounted for in that $28 million. And these are just the bare minimums that I'm talking about. That leaves us $12.1 million underneath the cap. 12.1 million. That doesn't go very far at all. And this whole figure includes the cap expanding by 10 million again next year. A lot of people saying that the cap could contract a lot. So before you talk about signing Cam Hayward to a cap-friendly deal this year, which would be nice, you got to take into account next year. And we're not seeing the big TV contracts next year. That's 2022. Not next year. So the cap's not going to rise exponentially next year. And when people talk about it contracting 30 to 80 million next year, possibly, the Steelers front office has to be putting this in the back of their heads. How much revenue are they going to lose year over year? And that's really something for another show and another article that I plan on doing later this week. What would happen if there is an actual contraction to the Steelers salary cap? And that's got to be in the back of Kevin Colbert's head and Omar Khan when they're working on these contracts for Cam Hayward, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner, just to mention a few. Have to be thinking about those. What would happen if the cap contracted? But you also have to they have to keep in mind the 2021 salary cap, $28 million. Take away the expenditures, you're sitting at $12.1 million. There's talk that if Juju has a big year, franchise tag him. Boom. Bam. Keep him under contract for another year. So you work something out. Well, yeah, I'm not sure about what the wide receiver cap number is for a franchise tag, but I'm going to assume it's probably north of 18 million. I'm pretty good at math, no expert, but 18 is definitely greater than 12. Lowering Cam Hayward's cap this year sounds great because he's at 13 million. But if you lower it for this year, how much is it going to be next year? And I'm fully on board with keeping Cam Hayward. Absolutely. I'm all good with that. But anytime you do a restructure or an extension, you got to look at the future years and what that holds. You know, could we get something done creative with the I believe the highest paid quarterback next year with Big Ben? Some people want to do an extension. Some people want to cut him. I would have assumed some people want to keep him at 41 million. And there are some moves we could do to free up cap space. Extension for TJ Watt. Conversion of for DeCastro. Or an extension, I believe. Because I believe he's a free agent. Yeah, he is a free agent now. So an extension for DeCastro, but he's not exactly young. One of my favorite players I like to kick around is Vince Williams. $7 million next year. I believe he's $7 million this year as well. Almost starting to get to the point where he's not really that cuttable. We're going to have to make some tough choices between this year and next year. Of can we actually sign a Cam Hayward? Can we get him to push off getting big money until 2022? And we have TJ Watt sitting there on his fifth year, making a measly $10 million, when the other best defensive players in the NFL are making 2.5 times that. We'll see how he takes to making pennies on the dollar. So there it is. Just a quick rundown of the Steelers 2021 cap and my thoughts regarding it. So keep in mind when you talk this year about restructures and extensions, players you may or may not want to get rid of this year, that it's going to have an impact next year. And just keep in mind that the salary cap is not infinite. All right. This has been Flip Fisher, staff writer for BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Thanking you for checking out the video. Appreciate that. If you like the content, give me a thumbs up. Hey, if you thought that I didn't say anything meaningful, give me a thumbs down. Let me know. Then let me know if I did something that you disagreed with in the comments section below. For anybody new, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to get notified when I throw up content, smash that bell. All right. Thanks all. Laters.